The sermon title I've got is A Tale of Three Kings. We run into three big, powerful guys in this sermon. But I want to start with a question. What kind of person are you? If you look into your own heart, your own life, how much of a train wreck is there? How much of it do you have hidden? What is there that's untoward? What is there that's good and beautiful and wonderful? Most of us are kind of a mixed bag of those things, right? What kind of person are you? And then, hold on to that question and then also ask yourself this one. What difference does it make what you believe to be real? Your foundational beliefs about reality. You don't get more basic than your beliefs about God, right? And those are the central beliefs. Philosophers wrestle with divinity and what that means and what He might be like. That is the central. So what is true about Him? And what is true about human nature? And what is true about truth? And what is true about reality? What are your basic, most central beliefs? And I told you, hold on to that other question. What do those two questions have to do with each other? What kind of person you are and what kind of things you believe. How do those relate? A movie came out a few years ago. You may have seen it. It's called God's Not Dead. Have you seen that movie? Kind of an entertaining movie about a college student getting beaten up by an atheist professor. I'll tell you, the real I love and hate that movie. I love that they put some real effort into a Christian movie. But I'll tell you why I hate it. Every non-Christian in that movie is an absolute beast. Have you noticed this? They demonize the non-Christians. They're not just a little flawed. They're absolutely horrible people. I mean, they're cartoon villains. They're like Batman bad guys. I mean, their motivations are bizarre. They're weird. And as I watched that movie, I kept thinking, is this what Christians think about their neighbors? No matter we don't spend much time interacting with them, they are not like this. My non-Christian friends that I've got are nothing like the people in that movie, and I couldn't take one of them to that movie because of what it would say about them. Sometimes it seems like, if somebody's got something wrong spiritually, we have to make them into a horrible, awful, terrible person to make them feel horrible, terribly guilty so that we can introduce them to the gospel so that we can get them sold on it so we can get them into our club. And so you look at, that movie, I think, is a caricature of what an awful lot of us believe about people who aren't walking with us. But at the same time, having flaws in your understanding of spiritual reality is going to show up in flawed life. It's not quite as demonic as the God's not dead thing. In fact, the Bible doesn't treat the non-Christians that way. It treats them as very real, flesh and blood people who come to us with very real problems. If non-Christians were like the people in God's Not Dead, none of us would be tempted to be anything like them. The minute we saw demon monster person showing up in us, we'd go, ooh, I don't like that. I need to change. But when we see what real non-Christianity looks like, well, it actually is sometimes very attractive, and we end up wanting to stay kind of like it. In our story today, Tale of Three Kings, it's actually not a good name because it's one is a governor. Okay, so it's a tale of three powerful men, two kings and a governor. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well. So we're going to go with a tale of three kings, but we're looking at these guys. Okay, three kings, three powerful people. Three people with the power of life and death in their hands. Of course, it's really just one of them that really has that. But these are real people, and these two are real non-Christians. And we get to see what their flaws in their belief system makes of them. What kind of people do they become? And they come to us as real, genuine, authentic warnings of what life without God looks like. Because you don't become a cartoon character. You're still a very reasonable person. Even as monstrosity rolls around inside of you and around you. Even as you look, and two of these guys are really horrendous failures. Let's look at him. First one is this guy, Pilate. Now this guy is a pagan, first century pagan. He's very Roman to his core. He really believes in gods, I suppose, to whatever degree Romans did. The understanding of Roman theology is kind of messy. You know, what did Pilate actually think about the gods? Well, he didn't want to be friends with them. To whatever degree he believed in them, he didn't want to be a friend of those gods. Because, you know, those gods do things like turn themselves into swans and rape you. You know, you don't really want to be buddies with Zeus, right? Or even if they're in a really good mood, maybe they'll turn you into a tree. No thanks. Basically, you want to keep the gods as far away from you as you can. But to whatever extent, this was a spiritual man. You don't rise to power in the Roman Empire without some sort of understanding of civic spirituality. You've got to be able to have it. But this guy had no tolerance or understanding of the Jewish God. He's super Roman. And if you look at the way that he governed, if you read about him in other sources, he's also super bloody and super violent. Because their gods were. And the Jews were just backwards, awful, horrible people in his opinion. So he'd use force and do stupid things. He put up Roman emblems and shields all over the temple. You can't do that. Started riots many times. Part of the reason that Jesus was so vulnerable in front of Pilate is because Pilate had mismanaged the spirituality of the people he was with so badly that the Roman emperor told him, look, one more riot and there's going to be blood in the streets. It's going to be yours. Pilate just doesn't know what to make of the people he's with. And he's walking around with the real God all around him. You can't live in Jerusalem and not encounter Yahweh. You just can't. But he doesn't. In another one of the Gospels, we run into Jesus saying, well, all who serve truth, or all who are on the side of truth are with me. And Pilate says, what is truth? That's his core. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what to make of things. Well, that shows up when he runs into the truth. When this unknowing person runs into Jesus, you get to see what a life of somebody who hasn't invested in figuring out what reality really is looks like. Pilate blows it all over the place. He makes a horrid mess of the thing that he's most known for. First of all, he attempts to avoid spiritual decisions at all. You see him doing that with Jesus. When he learns that he's a Galilean, he's like, whoa. When he learned he was a man from Galilee, he says, when he learned that, he belongs to Herod's jurisdiction. Send him off to Herod. Herod's is here in Jerusalem. He's here for the festival. Let Herod deal with him. Why is he doing that? Well, by this point in the trial, he already knows he's dealing with another one of these crazies. And I don't mean Jesus, I mean crazy situations that showed up with the Jews all the time that he knows he doesn't know what to do with. And he's like, okay, well, you know what? Herod knows Judaism. He can take care of it. And since he'd never really bothered to learn the faith system, the people that he was governing, he didn't know what to do. So, hey, I'll just dodge it. Which is what people who don't know spiritual reality so often do. You run into a question that's hard. You know what? 24 is on TV, though. It's on Netflix now. I'd rather deal with Jack Bauer than eternity. You know, you know what? I can go work out at the gym and not have to think about this. Dodge. Let it be somebody else's problem. I don't want to have to think about it. That's where he is. Pilate knew exactly what he should do. He knew what he should do. It shows up a couple of times in the text, more than a couple of times. Here's two of them. Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, I find no guilt in this man. He hasn't done anything wrong. They came to him with accusations like, I can't find it. I've tried him, there's nothing here. He sends him off to Herod. Herod sends him right back. And he says, well, you brought this man who was misleading the people, and after examining him before you, behold, I find this man, I do not find this man guilty of any charges against him, and neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him. I will therefore punish him and release him. I'll punish him for doing nothing. Excellent leader. Wonderful leadership. He's not done anything. Herod knows. And as if it's twice is not enough, and he said to him a third time, why? What evil has he done? I have found in him no guilt deserving death. I will therefore punish and release him. He knew he's got to do something to get this crowd to chill out, but he knows he doesn't need to do what's wrong. But people who don't have a central spiritual core don't stick to anything. There's a phrase, either you stand for something or you get knocked down for nothing. This guy doesn't know who he is or what he believes. The only central core he's got is keeping Pilate alive. Like, there are things worth dying for. There are things that it's not worth doing even if you have to die. But Pilate doesn't know that. Yeah, there's a guy named, you may have heard of him, there's a street named after him in town, Martin Luther King. He once said that if a person doesn't know that for which he would die, he's not fit to live. This is what that looks like. He knows what's true. He knows what's right. But what does he do? Without a central belief system, without a knowledge of God and truth and reality, he can't stick to what's right. What's right won't stick to him. He can't do it. So what's he do? But they were urgent, demanding with loud cries. Oh, wait, they were loud. Oh, I missed that when I was preparing the sermon. I'm going to have to go back and rethink. If they were loud, then killing an innocent man is probably okay. Not okay. They were urging with loud cries that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. And just in case you want to take it off of Pilate's back, it says, so Pilate decided that their demand should be granted. Pilate didn't just wimp out, he acted. He acted in wrong, wicked, bad ways. And why did he do it? Well, if you don't know what you believe, then you will not know what to do, even if you know what to do. You know, so often people know what's right, but knowing what you ought to do and being able to actually do it are not the same thing. And if you don't know God, if you aren't walking with God, if you aren't calling upon God for His help, this life is filled with challenges every day. And you will fail the way Pilate failed. But you don't have to. The Lord Jesus is stronger than Pilate. You know, even creepier to me than Pilate, though, is Herod. Because Herod knew who God was. You know, Herod was steeped in the trappings of Judaism. He isn't himself Jewish, he's Idumean. It's one of the things that the many of the Jewish leaders hated about him. You know, oh, here's your Jewish king. He's not Jewish. It made them really mad. They were very frustrated with Herod's leadership. Not to mention the whole Herod dynasty was a little violent. They killed people a lot that didn't have it coming. They're kind of a mess. But that whole being Jewish and not really being Jewish, that was a big deal. But seriously, this guy, he knows temple. What's he doing in town? Why did he just happen to be there when Jesus is on trial? He's in town for the festival. It's time for Passover. You're supposed to do that in Jerusalem, and hey, it looks good if you go to town. You know, it's the right thing to do. It's not where I generally live. I got a palace there, but it's not where I'm usually off over here. But you know, I'll go. I'll keep the trappings of religion. As I say on the screen, he must have felt safe because he certainly isn't searching. He is not a looking man. Oh, he's looking. He's looking for a good show. He wants the vaudeville. He's ready to see David Copperfield make the Statue of Liberty disappear. You know, he did that. I mentioned that in an earlier sermon one time. You know, you realize that's really big? That's a big thing. He made it disappear. It's the size of the Statue of Liberty. He made it. Anyway, that's what Herod's interested in, not spiritual reality. He encounters God Himself. But listen, this guy, I think, stands as a warning to us because, you know, you and I hopefully, if you came into this building, you're looking for spiritual truth. You want to encounter something real. You want to be with God. That's why you came. So you're probably not in the same boat as Pilate, but you could be in the same boat as this guy. Because this guy, he's got all the trappings of religion, and none of it's fruit. He's got all of the, I want to be a religious person. And there are an awful lot of Christians who live, I want to be a good religious person. I want to look real good. I want to be in town when the festival happens. But I don't want the cost, and I don't really want to change very much. And I don't really want to encounter a God who's going to make demands of me. I'd love to run into a God who would do some fancy footwork and make me my life better. That would be fun. That would be good. But a God who expects me to change? I might have to stop killing people. I don't want to do that. So you run into this guy. He does religion, but he isn't changed by it at all. It says Herod, when Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him. We saw that all the way back in chapter 7, and Herod was looking for him. Herod wanted to be with Jesus. He wanted to see him. And we've run into this throughout the book of Luke. People wanting to be with Jesus, wanting to see Jesus. You run into that and you're like, oh, wow. Maybe we're about to see a conversion or something. And then Luke finishes his sentence because he had heard about him and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. You ever seen Jesus Christ Superstar? You ever heard of that musical? Okay, you know, a lot of that's kind of tripe, but Herod's song is beautiful. It is perfect. So you are the Christ, you're the great Jesus Christ. Prove to me that you're no fool. Walk across my swimming pool. If you'll do that for me, then I'll let you go free. Come on, King of the Jews. Yuck. Hey, thanks. Hey, I can do the whole song if you want. No, we don't have time. That's exactly where this guy is. Oh, yay! Break out the hats and the canes. We're here for a show. Let's see him pull a rabbit out of his toga. Come on! Come on! Make my life better! Come on! Do your thing! Entertain me! Help me! Do something that stirs up my empty, God-forsaken soul, please. And how many of us come to a place like this looking for that? We walk away ticked off because we weren't entertained. Are we looking for what Herod's looking for? Or are we looking to change? Are we looking for truth? Are we looking to be transformed? What are we looking for? Herod is close to God, but he's there without an open heart. And when I say he's close to God, I mean he's probably closer to God than I am to any of you, because he's right there in the room. But Herod doesn't have any room for him. So he questioned him at some length. You know, he's pestering him. Get him to do his stunts. Come on, do your tricks. Work a miracle. I want to see something amazing. Come on. He's right there with God, but he's making no room for God. Don't you know that Jesus doesn't sit there mute if he knows there's an opportunity? If Jesus sees a chance to work some change, He's going to take it. But Jesus knows good and well where Herod's heart is, and it's not open. It's closed. And so is Jesus' mouth. And he was hoping to see some sign. I'm not sure why I had that. We already did that. Oh, I did this to show you where his heart is. It's all about the sign. It's all about the miracle. And that's why Jesus isn't talking to him. And Herod is frankly ill-equipped to reason about spirituality. He shouldn't be. He's lived with Yahweh all his life. He's encountered it, but he's just not ready to spend time with God. And so what voices is he listening to? The chief priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. And that's what he's hearing. And you can tell that's what he's listening to because of how he behaves. Herod's heart is full of cruelty. You spend time with God, you don't end up there. Okay? God isn't a cruel God. God doesn't mistreat the weak and the innocent. It's not who He is. In fact, he gets ticked off at people who mistreat the weak and the innocent. But look at Herod. Look at what he does. And then Herod with his soldiers treated him with contempt. And they mocked him. And then they arrayed him in splendid clothing. And they sent him back to Pilate. Because you wouldn't dance, monkey dance, out you go. Knowing good and well what's going to happen because the accusers have been standing right there. He knows what's going to happen. No, I got no time for you. You got no miracle for me. I got nothing for you either. And how many people are going to just walk out on God? How many people just give up? It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't fun. I'm out of here. It demanded too much of me. It expected too much. He didn't speak when I wanted him to. I'm out of here. How many of us fall into that trap? That's Herod. Now, these men had authority and responsibility to protect the innocent. God had put them in places of power. That's their job. The job description of a human government from God is really pretty simple. He doesn't seem to care all that much about how you set up your economics or what policies you put in place, as long as you protect the innocent and you avenge the victims. He's pretty cool. The minute you start causing victims, he gets ticked. But this was their job from God. And they don't do it. They aren't what they're supposed to be because they're not prepared. Their core beliefs are not leading them to be anything good. What you believe will have a profound effect on who you are. Those two men stand as examples of bad belief systems leading to bad behaviors and to the biggest failure of any government ever. Human government killed God because of them. Bad beliefs lead to bad behavior. And then there's this other king. Now, in this whole thing, he doesn't say or do very much, which is in and of itself pretty amazing. But he is just stunningly beautiful because this is a person of absolute faith. You cannot do what Jesus does unless you are entirely faithful. Period. You just can't do it. What does he do? Nothing. And when Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" he answered, "You have said so." Interesting thing in Greek, he said, "You said, I am." God's name is actually in Jesus' reply to Pilate. I'm God. You're dealing with God. That is all he says in these three trials. That's all he's got to say. Other than that, his mouth is shut. Pilate, or rather Herod, questioning him. So he questioned him at some length, but he made no answer. That's hard to do. You ever have somebody say something awful about you that isn't true? And you just carry it? Man, I want to go, what? That's not me. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. Come on, that's not fair. You know, and if you doubt me, look at my Facebook wall. I'm getting better, working on it. But oh my goodness, is it hard to let someone say something about you that stinks and just let the stink stay in the air. But that's what he's doing. Why is he doing that? How can he stand to make no defense at all? And look, he's got the best mind in the room. No one else can think like him. He can outthink all these people. He doesn't have to go to law school to be the best lawyer there is. He knows how to defend himself if he wants to, but he doesn't do it. Why? Well, what does he believe? What is his central belief? He believes in Yahweh, and he trusts Him. And he trusts that he doesn't need any other defender but Yahweh alone. That Yahweh will deliver in Yahweh's time. His Father will take care of him. He doesn't have to become ugly in the midst of ugliness. He doesn't have to return hate for hate. He can simply sit there and let the bitterness happen all around him. Why? Because he believes it to the core of who he is. And because he believes it to the core of who he is, it shapes how he behaves. That's an amazing man. So, I kind of wrap up where I began. What do you truly believe? What's the core of your belief system? What's at the center of what you think is real? And what kind of person are you? What is your core belief system in empowering and enabling you to do? How does it lead you to be open or closed to God? What do you believe is real? Because Jesus has it right. And God empowered him to stand in the middle of a room filled with people out for his blood, and he knew they were going to kill him. He knew that it was going to happen. And still, he could stay in absolute faithful silence, trusting that Yahweh would deliver in Yahweh's time. Could you do that? There are Christians that did. There were Christians that were martyred across the centuries. They did exactly what Jesus did because they believed it. And because they believed it, God empowered them to live, even as they died. So what do you believe? And how are you living? And how do those line up? The trial of Jesus shows us what failure looks like, and it shows us what success looks like. And if you look into your own heart today, what do you see? If you look into yourself and you see a mess, there is one person who can clean it up, and it's not you. It's Jesus. He can help because He can change what you really believe. He can transform you at the level of your heart, a place you have no access to. And if you need His help, if you need the prayers of the church, let us know. We want to pray for you. It may be that you came to this place, you carried something with you, and it hurts, and it's worse than, but it's got nothing to do with anything that I talked about. Well, we want to pray for you too. We do. We want to lift you before God. And it may be that you came here, you're not a Christian. I'm telling you, there's no better way of life than following this excellent man. If this morning you're subject to the invitation of God, why don't you come right now while we stand and sing?
Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power?